Okay. What is it?
Anna, I am so glad you are here right now. My friend, this is my newest and greatest and second best invention ever. I call this one the Foley Sound Changer 9000.
Okay. This won't set the place on fire?
This is not gonna set the... Listen, this is better than the last one, I promise.
Anything is better than the last one.
Okay, check this out. Everyday sounds.
Okay.
Pretty normal, right?
I don't know if the second one was normal, but yeah.
Check this out.
Oh.
Ta-da!
Nothing happened.
Wait. It should have worked.
What? Are you... That's me.
It appears your footsteps have turned into itty-bitty, teeny-weeny, tiny little toots.
Change it back, please.
You don't want your footsteps to be tiny little toots?
Change it back.
All right, I'm changing it. And that should do it.
Perfect. Now.
Sorry.
Change it back.
Okay, I'm changing it back. Just that I love this thing. All right, should be back to normal now.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Now, let's get on with this episode.
Let's do that. And you guys probably already guessed, but today we're going to be talking about Foley and sound in film. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this.
Maybe today I'll make a movie with my sidekick. Maybe today I'll write a story. Let's start learning. Action! We can be what we wanna be. Come down to the film labs.
In filmmaking, well, Foley is the reproduction of everyday sounds that are captured and then added to a film in post.
Yes, and sometimes it can be pretty hard to grab all of those sounds in one film. So you can add it in post.
And by post, we mean when you're editing your film. Every filmmaker loves to hear, let's fix it in post. Actually, there's a correction there. Nobody likes hearing that. So just don't try to fix it in post unless you have to. But with Foley, it can be broken down into 3 different categories. And those categories are feet, moves, and specifics. Feet are the sound of footsteps, like Anna's footsteps, those tiny little toots. Moves are subtle sounds heard in films, like characters' clothing or swooshing of movements. And lastly, specifics are phones ringing, the sound of slamming doors, or gunshots.
Okay, so I'm kind of confused. Why do they call it Foley then?
That is a good question. It actually originates from a name by one man who went by Jack Donovan Foley. He was an American sound effect artist who was the developer of many sound effect techniques used in filmmaking. He is credited with developing a unique method for performing sound effects live and in synchrony with the picture during a film's post-production. Accordingly, individuals engaged in this trade are called Foley artists.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I agree. Jack Donovan Foley. That guy is a national treasure. He's one of my favorite people ever. You could say he's a jack of all sounds. Touché. Good use of the Foley Sound Changer 9000. But to understand Foley more, we're gonna have to call the professionals. And I know just who to call. It's our friends over at Zebra Vision. They know everything.
Hey Film Labs! If you're going to be capturing sound, it's first helpful to know a little bit about the science of sound. When you make a sound, you move the air around you. Imagine doing a cannonball into a calm pool of water. Waves would move out from where you landed. The same thing happens when you clap your hands or use your voice, except it's invisible. A microphone is a sensitive tool that captures sound waves and turns them into recordings that we can use in our films. If you're planning to capture your own sounds, there's a few different ways you can do this. In music studios, you'll often see microphones that look like this one. They are very sensitive and great at recording quieter sounds like talking, singing, and music instruments. When you're out in the world, you'll probably see more microphones like this one. These microphones are very durable. They're also great for recording voices, along with loud sounds like drums or big concert speakers. So how do you get sounds from a microphone into your computer? The secret is an audio interface. When using a microphone, there's 3 things you should think about. The first one is distance. If you're recording something like your voice or singing, a good rule of thumb is to spread out your pinky and your thumb and be about that far away from the mic. If you're recording something louder, like a scream or a crash or some kind of bang, you might want to be further away from the mic. You can experiment. Think about your ears like they're a microphone built into your head. If you're recording something, move around the room and see where it sounds best, and then place the microphone there. Rule number 2 is volume. You need to set the volume of your microphone correctly. Volume is sometimes also called gain. If it's too loud, your recording will probably sound fuzzy and distorted, kind of like this. If it's too quiet, you might have trouble turning it up loud enough inside your film.
It's pretty awesome.
Rule number 3 is echoes. The sounds we make sound different in different rooms. Maybe you've experienced this when making noises in something like a gymnasium or a closet or a parkade. Remember when we said sound is like waves in a pool? That means sounds bounce off things around us like walls, floors, and ceilings. If you've ever heard an echo, what you're hearing is the sound bouncing off something and traveling back to your ears. It's kind of like a tennis ball bouncing off a wall and then coming back to you. Most of the time when recording, we don't want those bouncing sounds to be recorded in our microphones.
Wait, but how do you stop all the bouncing?
If you're lucky, like us, you have special soft walls that keep the sounds from bouncing off back into the microphone. But you can also build a sound booth at home. You can hang soft blankets around your microphone to keep sounds from bouncing around the room and being captured back in your microphone again. Have you ever built a blanket fort?
I love blanket forts.
You can build a blanket fort around your microphone, and that will stop sounds from bouncing off the walls and back into your recordings. This will lead to better recordings that don't have any echo. Now you know how to use a microphone, but what if you don't own one? That's okay. You can also use the microphone built into a smartphone. That way, if you hear a cool sound in the world around you, you can pull out your phone and capture it.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Next, we'll talk about layering sounds to create a realistic feel in your film. When you're editing your film, you can stack lots of different sounds to make it feel more real or more exciting. Often, we need to find sound effects for the things that we see on camera, like opening a can of pop or hitting a home run. We also need to add sounds for the things you can't see on camera, things that might be hidden, farther away, or behind you. For example, a scene out in nature might have sounds like birds, or wind rustling through the leaves, or the sound of trickling water. But that doesn't feel quite right in this space, does it? or a scene in a spaceship might have all sorts of bleeps and bloops and sound of technology. That's not quite right here either.
No, that doesn't sound right, but it's pretty cool.
When you're adding sounds to your film, you can think about all the possible sounds that would be in that scene. And then you can add them and layer them. It makes it feel real, and you can trick your audience into feeling like they're actually there. You might also be thinking, some of the sounds in my film are going to be pretty hard to make. That's okay. We don't always have to make our own sounds. The great thing about the internet is tons of people have already recorded all sorts of sounds, and you can download them for free on different websites. So we've learned a lot today. But just remember, the more you get out there and experiment, play, mess around, the better you'll get at making noises, picking the right noises for your film, recording them, and then placing them in layers to make things feel realistic. So get out there and experiment. Now back to you, Mitch and Anna.
You know, I love talking to the professionals. They know everything, and they're so full of information.
I know. I cannot wait to put this to the test.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go get some supplies and make our own sounds.
Let's go.
Oh.
This way, yep.
All right, well, that should be everything we're gonna need today. Anna and I went into the house and found as many items as we could. Some that look weird, sound weird, feel weird, anything we think might make a cool noise for our Foley. We're gonna watch some videos today and see if we can recreate those sounds by using all of these objects. Who knows if we will be able to, but it's worth the challenge. So, let's see what we've got ahead of us. One of the first sounds we were trying to make was footsteps. We decided to use a woman's shoe and watch the video and try to recreate it. So Anna is going to do her absolute best to try to recreate what we're seeing on the screen. Matching it up can be difficult, but she seems to be doing quite a good job. Up next, it was my turn, and I found an old piece of glass that I thought sounded a lot like a high heel stepping on hardwood. What I did was I just flicked it on another piece of wood. It sounds pretty good to me, but I did my best to stay focused. Look at that dedication. We kept finding cool things to use to replicate the sound of the high heels. Anna found 2 pencils, and she figured it sounded like stepping on hardwood as well. And if you notice, she's watching the screen to make sure that she's getting the sound perfect. Our next objects were 2 pieces of plastic we found in the house. But instead of using high heels, we were replicating the sound of a ticking clock. Ticking clocks are seen often in movies, and we figured we could really nail the Foley sound. Next up, we have baking soda that we found in the house. We have no plans to bake any cookies, so we figured we'd use it to replicate the sound of stepping on lightly packed snow. While Anna was making that sound, I decided to add a little depth by blowing to replicate the sound of wind. After doing lightly packed snow, we thought, what would it sound like if it was fluffy snow and we were stepping into it? So we used way more cornstarch and we really squeezed it to replicate the sound of a boot stepping into fluffy snow. We weren't getting quite the crunch we wanted, so we decided to use 4 hands instead of 2. And to warm up from all the cold weather, Anna and I tried to recreate fire. We did this by taking what we learned from the professionals and layering sounds by using an old candy wrapper, bubble wrap, and blowing. After we finished recording the sounds, we layered them, but it didn't quite seem right. So we found some nature sounds online and added it to the mix. Now it sounds perfect. Boy, did we make a mess today!
We sure did.
And that's all right. That's what Foley's all about. Getting your hands dirty and making some noise. It's also about failure. It's okay if some of the sounds you try to make don't work out. A lot of the sounds we tried today, well, they just weren't effective. But Foley is all about the experience and the experiment. So we challenge you. Go find some really cool things in your house and see if you can make your own Foley sounds. Who knows, it might end up in your next movie.
Yep, Jack would be proud of this mess.
Jack would be so proud of us. And next week, we're gonna be focusing on sound again, but with film score. We're really excited about that episode and we hope to see you there. My name's Mitch.
My name's Anna.
And we're the Film Labs. Okay.